The following is a Hoop Ball presentation.
Hello, and welcome to the Hoop Ball DFS Today podcast. I am your host, Mike Patra. We're going to break down a wonderful 9-game card. It's Thursday, May 13th. Got a nice little slate of action to talk about. Great night going tonight. Can't complain. I got to wait on this little late game hammer, but hopefully it ends well. I got some Kuzma, got some Caldwell Pope, a little Kelly Olynyk, a couple guys in there I need to round out, but we'll see. We'll see. But the day goes on, the slates goes on, and everything keeps on moving full circle. So we got these 9 games to talk about, but before I jump into anything, quick shout out to our presenting sponsors over at MyBookie. If you guys haven't checked them out already, head over to mybookie.ag. They are the number one sportsbook out there. The only one I use. I say stamp of approval pretty often, but it's more than that. I might as well get them tattooed on my body at this point. MyBookie has the best odd boost contest in the business. They have a fully fledged casino platform, everything from table games to slot machines, you name it, and they have it. Awesome sports content. The best customer service. I could just go on for days. And the best part about it is if this is the first time you're hearing it, never heard of them, never been there, head over there now and use the promo code HOOPBALL on your initial deposit. That's HOOPBALL. And they will match you 50% on up to $1,000. So you put in $1,000, they will give you $500 for free to play with in any way, shape, or form that you choose to. So head over to MyBookie, promo code HOOPBALL. All right. We got 9 games to talk about, and you think with the season winding down, we get these smaller slates. It's just starting to cook. We got 9 tonight, and then this weekend, the fully loaded 15 gamer, every single team playing. Buckle up for that one. It's gonna be all hands on deck. You're probably gonna see multiple DFS Today staffers, maybe on the podcast, even articles. We'll be all over the place. But first game of the night, LA Clippers traveling to Charlotte. They are taking on the Hornets. For the Hornets, Miles Bridges, Gordon Hayward, Cody Martin all ruled out. Caleb Martin is questionable. For the Clippers, Amir Coffey, Serge Ibaka have been ruled out. We have a 223.5 game total. Clippers favored by 8. Looking at this game, a lot of games on the docket. It's weird to see the Clippers in an early game, not something that we're pretty used to. 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time game, used to them being the late game hammer. So the great thing about this is we'll have any tricky Paul George or Kawhi Leonard sneaky news if they try to go that way. But it seems these guys are going to play for the most part. Not too excited about this game ultimately. I love their price tags. Anytime these two guys are under 9K, I keep them in my player pool. If I happen to land on them, I don't mind it one bit. It's just going to be kind of an underwhelming matchup for me. I think this game stays relatively close, but I don't think that we need to see too much Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. I don't think this is like a ceiling type performance game out of them with 9 guys on the slate or 9 games on the slate and plenty of guys that we're going to be targeting in the 8K or above range. Ultimately, I don't think I land on them unless it just rounds out a lineup and I like the way it looks. But other than those two guys, Zubac, I don't mind taking a look at him. 5K. Played 30 minutes in that last one. Absolutely torched Toronto for 38.5 DK points. Charlotte happens to be pretty weak against opposing centers as well. So it's another matchup, I think, if you wanted to go that way. I wouldn't fault you. Center position is another popular one, but for 5K in this matchup, not a bad idea. On the other side of the ball, for Charlotte, LaMelo Ball, top-tiered guy over here, coming in at 8,500. He hasn't been worth it for the past 2 games, and even, I guess we could say 3 out of the last 4. It's a tough matchup overall. I don't think I'll be playing any LaMelo at 85. If I was playing anybody, I might go to Terry Rozier at 77. I would love PJ Washington at 74. I wouldn't even mind paying that price tag one bit. I like him playing center a little bit more than I like him playing power forward. With that being said, he's been absolutely cooking. So if you want to go that way, you absolutely could. But I just think Rozier and then probably a little bit of Jalen McDaniels at 5,100 would be the two guys that I cross the line off at. On to the next game. Milwaukee Bucks traveling to Indiana, taking on the Pacers here. For the Pacers, Malcolm Brogdon, Jeremy Lamb, Edmund Sumner, Miles Turner, TJ Warren all ruled out. Aaron Holiday is questionable. For the Bucks, they're good to go. Nobody being really listed on this injury report worth noting. We'll start off with the Bucks. I mean, normally this would be a smash spot, one of these super competitive matchups that we want to target, and it still is. It's not like I think that the Pacers are just going to roll over just because they don't have Malcolm Brogdon and Miles Turner, but they have been absolutely bleeding points, and with a fully healthy Bucks team, they should be able to jump down their throats pretty quickly. We're just going to have to see how they respond, and they're probably going to need somebody to step up in a big way. Giannis coming in at 10-9. Where does he rank as far as the studs on the slate? He's definitely somebody I would target. I still think I would prefer Jokic over him, who we'll get to in a little bit. Vucevic is another guy that I've been looking at. We'll get to him in a little bit. I think I prefer both of them over Giannis. When it comes to Giannis and Sabonis, it's, you want to run these guys back. Sabonis now getting up to a price tag of 10-7, and rightfully so, with the triple-doubles he's been putting up. I would just prefer to play Jokic over him. Now, these guys are only $300 apart. Jokic just gives me that much more comfortable floor. Nonetheless, it's a great matchup for him. Outside of Giannis on this team, don't mind Holiday, don't mind Middleton, but those guys are just priced appropriately. If you want to play them, sure. They're not optimal plays in my eyes, not guys that I'm really gravitating towards. And to be honest, I don't think there's really anybody. Maybe if anybody, it would probably be like a Bobby Portis at 5,200. Decent matchup, especially knowing that they don't really have a solid four that they've been running out. They've kind of just been hodgepodging a little bit between, Doug McDermott, throwing out a little Jakar Sampson when he's actually healthy. But Sabonis is anchored down that 5 spot, and he'll continue to play that 5 spot. So Bobby Portis at 5,200, I could see him having a pretty decent game here. Averaged 40 DK points against this team in 2 games earlier in the season. It was only in 21 minutes. So Portis, Giannis, if you're looking at anybody on the Indiana side of the ball, Sabonis has been the guy I've been riding, but at 10-7, it's getting a little tough to pay that price tag. So I'll probably take a hard pass on it at that price tag. Just like I said, I prefer to play Jokic over him. Karis LeVert, same thing, 8,900. I wasn't paying 86 for him. He's getting a $300 price boost. Don't think I'll go there. If I was to go anywhere, it would just be continue going to guys like TJ McConnell at 5,500, knowing that we already got the news. No Malcolm Brogdon. He'll probably see that 25 to 30 minutes. He never plays much more than that, but he's a solid point per minute producer. Gives you that good, safe floor of around 20 to 25 DK points. And we know he has that ceiling when he gets those 10-plus assist games or 8-plus assist games and chips in a couple rebounds, gets you 4 steals. This dude could turn it on in random games. This could be a fast-paced game against the Bucks too. And the way that these 2 teams have been playing, this should be a high-scoring game. So we don't have the game total, we don't have the spread, but I would assume it's going to probably be at least 235. Maybe even closer to the 240. Just the Pacers bump, I guess, is what it's been. Take a quick sip of the Gatorade, and then move on to Game 3. All right, the solo pods. You get the dry throat once in a while, but we got Orlando Magic traveling to Atlanta, taking on the Hawks. Hawks on the second half of a back-to-back here. No injury report for them, but for the Magic, Mo Bamba is questionable. Michael Carter-Williams, James Ennis, Markelle Fultz, Jonathan Isaac, Chuma Okeke, Otto Porter Jr., and Terrence Ross all ruled out. 227.5 game total. Hawks favored by a whopping 12.5 points. So, got to keep an eye on Mo Bamba. That's the main guy. We saw that he got ruled out pretty close to lock in the last game. So 7,300 though in this matchup. Wouldn't mind him, but again, keep in mind Wendell Carter Jr. is back. So that whole playing 30-plus minutes every single night thing might be a thing of the past. He might be looking more like, splitting that time, 24 to 24, 26 to 22. But there's 48 minutes at the center position, and these guys are both going to have to play a little bit. So, actually, no, thinking about this, no Mo Bamba. If anything, Wendell Carter Jr. at 6K, but I don't think I'll either go to him either. If I'm looking anywhere, it would probably just be at the guard position in this game. RJ Hampton maybe at 5,900. See him playing garbage time, doing well against his Hawks team. It's just very underwhelming. It would be a GPP play only, not somebody that we can really trust or target in cash. And I could say Cole Anthony in this matchup, but it's an ugly one overall. We'll have better point guards. We'll have better guards, better value at that same price tag, I think, later on in the night. On the Hawks side of the ball, I'm not expecting this to be a very close game. Doesn't make me want to play Capella very much. 8,500, second half of a back-to-back. They're hoping to get this game out of reach pretty quickly. And if that happens, Capella's going to be playing 24, 25 minutes. So 8,500, I don't think I can pay that price tag. Trae Young at 91, he can easily pay that off. Easy matchup for him. I expect him to cook in this matchup. But, do I end up actually rostering him? I'll probably have him in a few of my, 20-entry max lineups. Outside of that, if you're playing single entry or cash, it might be a little tough this game with a 12.5-point spread. I don't expect him to be the first guy necessarily to sit, but I don't expect him to have to play a whole lot either. They've shown the will to play guys like Chris Dunn and Skylar Mays. Outside of those two guys, John Collins, still a fair price tag at 67. Probably the one guy I could see myself actually owning a share of. On to the next game. 7:30 Eastern Standard Time game. Philadelphia 76ers traveling to Miami. They are taking on the Heat. For the Heat, Jimmy Butler is questionable. Victor Oladipo has been ruled out. For the Sixers, Joel Embiid is questionable. Furkan Korkmaz and Shake Milton are probable. No game total, no spread for this one. Starting off with the Philadelphia 76ers, a lot of it's going to be riding on Joel Embiid's status. He sat out that last game, in which we saw a lot of that usage go right to Ben Simmons, right to Tobias Harris, right to Dwight Howard, and those would be the three guys that we would look at again. Tobias Harris took 24 shot attempts in that last game. I think he probably gets the best matchup on paper here. 7,300, absolutely. I wouldn't mind some shares of him. If Embiid sits, if Embiid plays, no thank you. Same thing with Ben Simmons, 7,500. If we see that Embiid sits, he put up 42 DK points in that last one, and he was only 7,300. He can pretty much return that pretty easily with the usage that he's going to see. This isn't the best matchup on paper. It's going to be a slower-paced matchup for him. This Heat defense is no joke, but that Embiid usage is no joke, and that trickle-down effect is no joke. Between those two players, Howard at getting the extra minutes, never a high-usage guy, and a little bit also of a trickle-down to guys like Seth Curry as well. So I wouldn't mind taking shots out any of the four if Embiid sits. If Embiid plays, I'll probably temper my expectations. If I had to play one of them, it would probably be like Tobias Harris. But I don't think I'd have a lot of interest in anybody outside of Tobias Harris if Embiid plays. On to the Miami side of the ball, we have to keep the eyes on Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler sits. So we'll also have to factor in the Embiid sitting. That obviously impacts the defense a whole lot, but if we do see Jimmy Butler sit, looking at Bam at 8,600, if there's no Embiid, I can see yourself going there. Not a bad idea. The price tag's a little up, but he's been playing pretty well lately, so there's no issues with it. He's, without that Embiid defense, it's a totally different story. Put up about 42 in that last one. No Butler. Sure. Why not? We got better options, but sure. Tyler Hero and Kendrick Nunn, Goran Dragic, those are going to be three of everybody's go-to just based on the other trickle-down of that Butler usage. If I had to pick one of those guys to go to, it would probably be Dragic at 5,100. Don't fault you if you want to go to Nunn. Nunn probably has a little bit more of a comfortable floor when there's no Butler. But that upside from Dragic, when he has to get those shot attempts, when he takes 18 shot attempts, you could pretty much guarantee 30 to 35 DK points out of him. And at 5,100, that is a good value. Outside of that, only other player I'd consider would be Andre Iguodala if he starts for Butler, and it's just purely value. Quick drink of the water, and we continue with the Gatorade. Apologize. San Antonio Spurs traveling to New York, taking on the Knicks, 7:30 Eastern Standard Time game. To the injury report for the Knicks. Reggie Bullock, Alec Burks, Emmanuel Quickley, all questionable. Mitchell Robinson has been ruled out, and Derrick Rose is questionable. Spurs on the second half of a back-to-back, so there is no injury report for them. But we'll start with them. Yaka, they were going against the Nets tonight, keeping the game pretty competitive for the most part. I haven't checked in on it in a little bit. I'm going to have to in a moment. It's a little harder to do when you're going solo just because I can't check the score and also, go through information. They don't pay me enough. That's the big bucks. That's what gets you on ESPN. They're playing on their phones hopefully the whole time, guaranteed. But in this matchup going to New York, it's going to be a tough one. New York's the defense, their pace, their grittiness. It grinds other teams down. This team's going to be on the second half of a back-to-back. There's a lot of things not to like here. Jakob Poeltl, 5,400, knowing that they're going to have to go against the size. I like them in that Nets matchup because of that. So I don't mind going back to the well here. It's just not as good of a play. But at 5,400, again, it's solid. I feel like he can return 5x value for us. I just wouldn't expect the ceiling-type performance from him. Outside of him, I don't think I'll be going to too much more here. I could see playing DeJounte Murray at 7K, but there's other guys that we'll talk about that I think are a little bit more interesting. On the other side of the ball, Julius Randle coming in at 9,400. I don't mind Randle here. I actually do like Randle. He's getting a little bit of price decrease. This guy was basically priced over 10K for about 5 or 6 straight games at one point. Put up about 50 DK points in that Lakers matchup. Went to overtime. He was upset with himself. He felt like he was part of the reason. He should have stepped up more. This feels like it's a good bounce back spot for Randle. A nice get right spot at 9,400. I don't mind Randle one bit. In fact, I think he is one of the better price tag players on the slate. I think he's going to give us a 10K performance. Outside of him, it's maybe Noel, but that's it. Everybody else a little risky. We don't really know what's going on. If we see that Derrick Rose sits, you could take a stab at Alfred Payton at 3,400. But again, it's a stab. There's a little risk involved. Would it be a terrible play, though? All right. That is 5 games down. We have 4 games remaining. We are absolutely just burning and churning. Sacramento Kings traveling to Memphis. Love when these two teams face off. No game total. No spread. For the Grizzlies, Grayson Allen, Sean McDermott ruled out. Jonas Valanciunas, questionable. For the Kings, Marvin Bagley, Harrison Barnes, both doubtful. De'Aaron Fox, Tyrese Halliburton ruled out. Buddy Hield is probable. We'll start off with this Kings team, and obviously with no Bagley, no Harrison Barnes, we're likely to see a little bit more of, as Santino would say, the Me Too movement. Chimezie Metu, he's just been an absolute beast. I think he's a fan favorite at 4,100. He'd probably be a pretty chalky play, and rightfully so, especially in this matchup where we know that Memphis will play a little bit bigger. We'll probably see Tillman or Jonas start no matter what at that center position, and then combinations of Brandon Wright and Kyle Anderson at the 4. So I don't mind looking at him. I think Harkless would see significant minutes as well. Metu, better point per minute producer than Harkless. But both those guys very, very much in play. Outside of those two guys, looking at a guy like DeLon Wright, going against his former team at 8,100. He's played for a lot of teams, but this is one of his former teams. Absolutely no issues there. This dude just continues to give us value. It's been one time out of the past 5 games that he hasn't returned value. Sign me up. If I got a 4 out of 5 success rate, if you tell me there's an 80% chance I can get value out of DeLon Wright, even at 8,100, I'm cool with that. So I absolutely have no issues going there as well. So it would mostly just be DeLon Wright, Metu, less Harkless. If anything, I would try to find the extra money for Davis. But he's coming off of a great game that I capitalized. But we're talking 3 straight games, 35 DK points or plus, 40 plus once in there. So the upside's there. But this feels like it might just be one of those spots where I bounce off. I feel like he might get a little bit of the Dillon Brooks defense. I'd rather go to the right. On the Memphis side of the ball, John Morant coming in at 8,200. Top most expensive guy on this Memphis team. Never going to argue against Ja. It's just not the matchup I really want to go to. It's easier than it has been, but it just might be one of those games that's too easy. He might just tear this up. We might just see a little bit of everybody chip in. Between Tillman, Bane, I already know that those are 2 value plays on this team that if we see that Valanciunas is ruled out, we already know that Grayson Allen has been ruled out. Jaren Jackson Jr. will be back probably be in that starting lineup. With that being said, so we might see, we should see, I'm not gonna say might, we should see our boy Desmond Bane get reverted back to a bench role. So should still probably play about 20 to 25 minutes, but he's not gonna start. Everybody slides down. Kyle Anderson doesn't play the 4 anymore. He goes down to the 3. Brooks goes down to the 2. Jaren in there at the 4. Tilly would likely still draw the start at center. So keep that in mind. Keep an eye on it. It's all going to be determined by that. But I will still have some interest in Tillman if there is. Did I say Tilly before? I meant Tillman. I'll have interest in Tillman if there's no Valanciunas. And John Morant, outside those two guys, that is it for me. Only 3 games left, and this is kind of where the juiciness happens. I feel like once it hits 8 o'clock, things start to get a little saucy. The better games of actual basketball, well, for the most part, one good one, and then the better games I think for DFS as well. Toronto Raptors traveling to Chicago, taking on the Bulls. Buckle up for this injury report for the Bulls. Troy Brown Jr., Tomas Satoransky, and Daniel Tice, all questionable. Before the Raptors, OG, Aaron Baines, Chris Boucher, Rodney Hood, Kyle Lowry, Pascal Siakam, Fred VanVleet, and Paul Watson have all been ruled out. We'll start off with this. I don't want to say injury riddled. This super tired Raptors team, and I don't want to say it like that because I know VanVleet and Lowry have been battling injuries, and I'm sure other guys have been, but. These guys are clearly taken at this point. They've been taken for a long time. We're going to see plenty of games like this for the remainder of the season. Wouldn't be surprised if more of them are like this. But you can absolutely look at every single player in their spots. I have no issues going anywhere here. If you wanted to look at some Malachi Flynn, sure, why not? 5,700. He should be able to return about 5x. There's the upside for a little bit more. I don't mind it one bit. I would probably lean towards some of these little cheaper options instead of going to Gary Trent Jr. or the Bembry. This Bulls team has kind of been playing with little conviction. I expect them to just kind of throttle quickly. When you play guys like Gary Trent Jr. paying $6K, relying on a straight jump shooter to hit his shots that night. And if he's on, you're going to cash in, and if he's off, you're not. So I don't like to just rely on score-reliant guys. Once I start to hit that 6K mark, I kind of want to get a little bit of more action, whether it's defensively or rebounds or assists, whatever it may be. But there's definitely some guys that we could take advantage of. Jalen Harris, 3,800, played 25 minutes and 29 minutes over the last 2 games, 20 DK points and 30 DK points. Should play a significant run. DeAndre Bembry, Yuta Wannabe. Either one of these guys, if I had to pick one of those, it would probably be Watanabe. But I don't mind playing any of these guys. With Boucher out, it's going to be minutes galore. And even, I think the fan favorite is Gillespie. He absolutely scorched in the last one, 25 minutes, put up 27 DK points. So was all over the floor, though. Was getting all the praise on Twitter. So again, I'm not playing Stanley Johnson. We'll just get that out of the way. I won't do it. If he burns me, he burns me. I won't play Bembry. 2 guys that are just a little too low usage for me. I'm not playing Trent Jr. I probably won't play Ken Birch, although he's not an absolutely terrible play. But every single one of these other guys are absolutely my player pool. They're going to have a small rotation. They're going to have to play big minutes, and there's value to be had. On the Chicago side of things, Nikola Vucevic. For everything I just said, he should absolutely scorch in this matchup. We've seen time and time again, ever since the injuries have happened over there in Toronto or Florida, whatever way you want to say it, centers have just been walking in there and having their way with them. It's just been an absolute cakewalk. So look at that guy like Vucevic. I have no issues going there at 10-2. I've already mentioned a few guys that I like them a little bit more at higher price tags. Outside of him, not a whole lot to like here. If Satoransky gets ruled out, we'll probably see a few more minutes get slid over to guys like Garrett Temple, but not guys that I would be overly excited about. And Kobe White would probably pick up an extra minute or 2 as well. Only 2 games remaining. We have the Denver Nuggets traveling to Minnesota, taking on the Timberwolves. For the Nuggets, Will Barton, P.J. Dozier, Jamal Murray, all ruled out. Monte Morris is questionable, dealing with the right hamstring management. For the Timberwolves, Malik Beasley, Jarrett Culver, both ruled out. We do have a game total, 235.5. Denver favored by 6. Putting some respect on this Minnesota team name when they've been playing pretty well lately. You could just see the chemistry that's been building between Russell, between Towns. These guys are best friends off the court. So, eventually it's going to click on the court. Looking at Jokic, I already said it. He's my favorite player on the slate. Absolutely love him in this matchup. Towns, for as great as this guy is on offense, he can absolutely get chewed up on defense. Jokic is averaging 62 DK points in 2 matchups this season against the Timberwolves. There's no reason to believe it won't be another 60-pointer tonight. I'd say the floor is going to be probably 55, but sign me up for some Joker all over him. I am not going to chase the Porter Jr. game. I don't even think it's a chase. I do believe he's that talented and he can do it on a nightly basis, but I do prefer more Jokic in this matchup. Outside of Jokic, I don't think I'll be going to too much. Rivers will likely draw another start, probably play 30-plus minutes. At 4,400, sure, why not? If you land on him, if you need it. But again, not a high usage guy, not a guy that has an incredibly high ceiling, so not somebody that I would even recommend too often in GPPs, just because you're kind of targeting high ceilings. If you're playing in one of those mass multi-entry GPPs, you're looking for somebody that can get you a 40, 50 at 4,400. You want to know that they have the upside. It might be a low probability, but you want to know that they have the upside, and it's just hard to see that upside when, you're a point guard and you're seeing the offense get ran through the center in front of you. Rightfully so. On the Minnesota side of the ball, like I just said, Towns, Russell, both these guys have been playing great. Edwards making a late run push at that Rookie of the Year award. This kid looks like he's an absolute stud, absolute freak of nature. He's that turnaround fade he had the other night on the right baseline was just, it just looks like a veteran move. It looks like somebody that's been in the league who's made 4 or 5 All-Star games. This kid's 19 years old. He's great with the media. I'm super excited about this kid's future. He's going to be unbelievable. He's got a future star for a long, long time in the league. And you know what? I'll be the first one to admit I did not think – I didn't know. I'm not going to say I didn't think. I didn't know he was this good. I had no idea he was this good. But nonetheless, 8K, I'm not playing him on DK. For everything I just said. If I'm looking anywhere, it's going to be a guy like Ricky Rubio in a competitive game, knowing that they don't have a true point guard. Campazzo and Ricky Rubio, that's going to be a sweet European battle. Actually, no, European. He's Argentinian. Rubio is Spanish. Is it Spain? I'm butchering this, and I do apologize. I believe Campazzo is Argentinian, if I'm not mistaken, and Rubio is from Spain. So, be a foreign battle. Won't be a European battle. But I do like Rubio at 5,600 in this matchup. For as good as Campazzo is at racking up the steals, he gets torched by point guards. It's kind of getting a little bit ridiculous at this point. Just the amount of highlights where it just kind of shows him getting torched. But we've seen 3 straight games of Ricky Rubio taking double-digit shot attempts with at least 26 minutes getting played in those. And it's been a good return of 2 games of 36 DK points and 1 of 28. So at 5,600, if we have a floor of 50, let's say 28 DK points and a ceiling of 40, I'm absolutely okay with that. It gives you some exposure to one of these later games as well. So probably my favorite play on this team. And outside of him, I might take a stab at a guy like Hernan Gomez simply because he is back. He probably is the best guy on paper for this power forward position. Even though they start Vanderbilt, they're going to continue to start Vanderbilt. When Hernan Gomez is playing and he's clicking, these guys should be at the very least splitting minutes. And it's a little revenge going against his former team. Final game of the night. Portland Trail Blazers traveling to Phoenix, taking on the Suns. For the Suns, Cam Johnson, Abdul Nader both ruled out. Portland has yet to release their injury report. No game total, no spread. Portland on the second half of back-to-back, so we're not going to get that. 2 back-to-back tough games for this Trailblazers team. They're facing the Jazz tonight as I'm recording this, going against the Suns tomorrow. 2 of the toughest teams defensively to go against, 2 tiring teams that will burn you out, put the pressure on and apply the pressure. Damian Lillard coming in at 9.5. He gets up for these matchups, absolutely. I said the same thing for the Jazz, but it's a win-now game for him. I don't mind it, but with 9 games on the slate, I think there's already other pivots I like. I don't think he's the pivot I'm taking. So I won't have any shares of Damian Lillard. If I'm going anywhere, it would probably be, again, a little bit more towards the center position. I liked Enes Kanter last night. I like him again tonight. It is a back-to-back, so I don't expect Nurkic to necessarily be, completely limited, but it might be one of those 21-minute games instead of a 30-minute game. We saw in that last back-to-back, on the front half, he played 31 against L.A., and the back half, he played 21 against San Antonio. Granted, one of those games were a blowout, but he's a guy that did miss some significant time for another circumstance. So earlier in the season against Boston, played 29 back-to-back, Atlanta 23. So second half of the back-to-backs, the minutes do worry me slightly, but for all those reasons, I will have some shares of Canner at 45. Outside of Canner, maybe Covington, and that's simply GPP, just because you want to take some stabs at having one of those big defensive nights where he gets 3 steals, 2 blocks, chips in 7 or 8 boards, and hits a couple threes, and all of a sudden you're cooking. You're looking at 40 DK points that you just paid like low 5s for. On the Phoenix side of the ball, these guys got good price tags. DeAndre Ayton coming in at 6,800. I do like Ayton. He hasn't done much over the last 2 games, but he hasn't had to do much over the last 2 games. I'll take some stabs at him. He's only averaging 25 DK points in this matchup, but it's only in 24 minutes. If this game stays close, he plays 30 to 35 minutes. He's probably going to put up 30 to 35 DK points. Sign me up for some Ayton. And if I had to pick between Paul and Booker, I'd probably lean more Booker. I think this is going to be more of the Booker matchup, averaging 49 DK points in 2 games against this Portland team earlier in the season. 8,300 feels a little bit too cheap for him, so I'll take some Booker. If you need a little value on this team, you could take stabs at Jay Crowder. He drew a start in that last one. Don't know if that's going to be something going forward or if it was just because it was against Golden State, but he performed. He came in there, took 10 shots, all 10 shots from behind the arc, and shot 6 of 10. Put up 20 points, 32 DK points total. Now he has 2 out of the last 3 games. He put up at least 30 DraftKings points at 4,700 in a plus matchup where, again, he might have played power forward simply because it made sense against Draymond, and it would make sense in this matchup as well. So if they need him to play power forward to match up with Covington, make a lot of sense. Very similar sizes. And that rounds us out. That brings us to the end. About 32 minutes for a 9-game solo breakdown, but we'll get to the player tier section now. We'll talk about some of the favorite high-priced, mid-priced, and value plays I like on the night, one of each tier. For the top tier, I gave it already. It's Nikola Jokic. Absolutely going to play him. 11K. Prefer him over Giannis. Prefer him over Sabonis. The 800 difference between him and Vooch, that gets a little closer. I do like Vooch a lot. But then after that, it's just a big drop down to a bunch of other guys. So he will be my top tier play of the night. And if I had to, kind of give like another, I guess, mid-tier play, one of those I already gave it Vooch 10-2 or for the expensive. For the mid-tier play, though, it has to be under 8K. So guys like John Morant, Devin Booker, those guys are ruled out. So under 8K, without knowing the news, I could easily just take the easy cop out, say if Embiid's ruled out, I would go to one of those Philly guys between Ben Simmons or Tobias Harris. Both those guys are very much in play. But we'll find someone. We'll find someone that I think that we could go with. It's a little bit more comfortable. Nah, we're going to do them. Yeah, we're just going to roll there. We'll go straight for the value. I'll give a couple extra value plays. It's just tough. Without this news, especially this late in the season, you've heard me say time and time again, you're pretty much donating your money if you can't follow the news and adjust your lineup. Even tonight, kind of seeing how lineup shaked out, who was starting, who wasn't. Once I saw Pritchard was coming off the bench, I wanted to start him everywhere. That was something I immediately gravitated towards. You knew this guy was going to have all the bench usage. You knew a lot of people would gravitate towards guys like Naismith, and I was okay with that. No matter what, I liked Pritchard more coming off the bench. I want that usage. Minutes equal money. That is a true fact, but minutes with usage equal more money. So keep an eye on that kind of stuff, and we have to be able to adjust. So Dwight Howard would be a great value play at 48. Again, if we see that Joel Embiid is ruled out, probably would be one of my go-tos. I would say Chimezie Metu, 4,100. We already got doubtful tags for those power forwards over there in Sacramento between Barnes and Bagley. I think he would make a rock-solid value play. Pretty much anybody you want from the Toronto Raptors would make for a rock-solid value play. There's going to be a lot of value, so I expect to continue to see a lot of these stars and scrubs lineups, and double center lineups I would expect to see a lot too. But that is all I have for you guys. Appreciate you listening. Battling like a sore throat right now. I know Santino's a little under the weather as well. I think he had his second shot, so good on him. But we will be back tomorrow. If you guys want, if you have a second, if you'd like to, follow me on Twitter at Mike Apotria, MikeApotria. Give us a thumbs up, rate, review, subscribe, 5 stars. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Podbean, anywhere you could. Hit the bell, subscribe, all the good stuff. Leave a nice comment for us. We really do appreciate it. We will be back tomorrow. It will be Dave. It will be Will. They'll be taking it out. They'll be crushing it. They'll be winning you guys some money. I'll be tuning in, taking their tips, winning some money with it. But let's go out there. Let's crush some tournaments, and let's take home the cash.
This has been a Hoop Ball presentation.